when you started learning guitar, who were your guitar heroes? Who were you trying to be?
Yeah, believe it or not, when I was in college, in 2000 and it was 2000 to about 2005. So I was a huge John Mayer fan. I just actually went and saw him the other night play by himself here in Nashville. Um, Acoustic, just him solo. And it reminded me, obviously never on the level of talent he is, but I just saw myself up there going like, that's the most free feeling thing you could do, is get on stage by yourself with an instrument and entertain a crowd. And I did that in college. So as far as a guitar hero, as you would say, I just learned a lot from him because he was a great guitar player, and playing in college by myself, I had to, in order to play his songs or stuff like it, I had to learn to be a better guitar player. So he encouraged me a lot to do that. From afar, not personally, just like being a fan. But then again, too, like my dad loved Stevie Ray Vaughan. And then, as I mentioned, being from Florida, Lynyrd Skynyrd and Tom Petty and that type of like rock and riff based songs are really what made me go like, I want to do that. I want those types of songs.
I got to record Lynyrd Skynyrd record at the Ocean Way studio, the church in Nashville. And then they asked me to go on tour, but I was still with Mellencamp, or I was with somebody, Melissa Etheridge maybe. But yeah, that, talk about a vibe. They're like the Rolling Stones of the South. Yeah. I mean, these guys,
you're right.
I mean, it was like I walked into their world, and it was real.
Oh yeah.
It was real. I mean, it was, oh dude, I wanted to go on the road with them. I just thought they were the coolest, man. And those guitar players, it was amazing. So what about in the singing thing? I mean, were you going after a certain vocal?
No, I still, I'll be honest with you. I saw an interview a long time ago of Kenny Rogers talking about his own voice. And I think it was like Larry King Live or something. And Larry King had told Kenny, he said, what does it feel like to have everybody like just love your voice? You're Kenny Rogers. And he said, I've always hated my voice. And he said it made me feel good when he said that, because I have always not really liked my own voice. I've never like been a guy that listens to my own music and goes, oh God, I sound so good. Like I've always been, I love making music, but I've never thought, oh, I sound so, like I'm like, I go sing the song. And so the people that I enjoy listening to though, where when I was growing up, like country music wise, like I loved like Randy Travis and Keith Whitley and guys with a baritone voice. I had a low voice growing up, so I loved that low tone, and Johnny Cash and stuff like that. So
Conway Twitty.
Conway Twitty. And dude, I just loved that anybody that had a deep, even like Eddie Arnold was like a very big staple in Nashville and of classic tunes. And so Merle Haggard, obviously, Waylon Jennings, like guys that had like a man's voice. I really, I wanted that. And so I guess that's where it stems from.
That's great. Well, I mean, you got a great voice. I mean, it's...
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, I know. And I listen to myself, when I do these podcasts, I go, oh my God, I sound like a chipmunk on crack or something. Can't you get it lower? But you have a really cool... That's good not to be in love with you. Anything. I mean, I have a phrase that goes like this. I'll never be as good as I want to be, but I'm willing to spend my entire life trying to be as good as I can be. I mean, that's just...
Yeah.
I don't mind. I don't mind. There are no failures. I'm just trying to get touchdowns. So, I mean, what do you think a guy like Tom Brady, I always talk about Tom Brady, let's say Mahomes, any great quarterback, they're resilient. They don't get a touchdown every time, but they keep trying.
Yeah. And I mean, when you think of guys like Babe Ruth or Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, these guys that have led home runs, like nobody talks about how many times they struck out, like, but they struck out a lot. Like, and I tell people that a lot about my career is that like, there's been many times, well, let's call it songs you put out on the radio, whatever, like they don't work. Like sometimes they're huge home runs. You knock them out of the park. And then sometimes like they're not. But it's okay because you're still in the game and you're still playing. And I've always thought that that's kind of cool that no matter like what happens, you can still always step up to the plate and try to knock it out of the park. Like whether you knock it out or not, you might strike out trying, but at least you were swinging for the fences. And that's kind of the way I've always looked at it.
That's such a positive attitude. That's the difference. It's like you didn't see the water. You just see where you want the ball to go. You just ignore the water.
I see my buddies going nuts when it happens. That's what I see, right? Like I see the naysayers being like, shit, he did it. And I'm like, well, yeah, I did it. I told you I was going to do it. Right. Like you didn't believe I did. I like making believers out of non-believers. Like that's another thing for me that's always been cool is like, even in this business now, like I'm here at this office we have in Nashville. And it's been a big passion of mine outside of my own artistry to like start this company to where I can see kids I believe in and help them succeed. And we've had a few now that I have kind of set off on their sailing ship. And it's so fulfilling. Has nothing to do from a monetary standpoint. Nothing I've ever done is I've looked at monetarily. I've always looked at it as like self-fulfillment. And I've been able to watch some people do some great things and knowing that it was because of a belief in them. And I remember telling someone the other day that I've had belief in people when they didn't even believe in themselves.
Dude, that's incredible.
And so it feels good. It feels good to encourage people to believe more in themselves because of that belief that we keep being redundant about and reiterating is really the gasoline to any engine. You have to have the belief, and without it, you're just putzing along like, on fumes.
Oh, dude, man, you're talking mind language big time. So, I do, I do motivational, inspirational speaking, and I thought I read something where you do some of that. Do you do that?
I don't know. No, I mean, I feel like I've been doing that today here with you, but I don't, I don't do it. No, I don't do it just to do it. I mean, I think doing stuff like this though, too, just so you know, Kenny, is super cool. I'm very grateful you have me on your podcast here. But talking with a friend about this type of stuff is a reminder to yourself. I think probably you would admit just the same way you do this is just as much probably for your benefit as it is for mine and any of us that are listening out there, that like we have to remind ourselves of this type of thinking and being positive, because otherwise this world can suck you under quick, if you allow it to.
Ooh, yeah.